Welcome to the Spacious Unknowing Network, Sunshine for Your Soul, with Julio
and JoJo Rose.
We invite you to enter into ecological equanimity in the unified field of spacious unknowing.
We open and awaken to broaden your access to the soul rhythm in all of us.
We engage in the pilgrimage inward to feel the infinite love that beats in the rhythm of our collective soul. We will guide you to new horizons and infinite love during our Inquire Within segment.
To accept that, you create your field.
I create my field.
And together, we create the unified field. Spacious Unknowing Network
with Julio
and JoJo Rose starts now. Aloha and welcome to Spacious Unknowing Network, communing with your soul. I'm JoJo Rose, here with Julio Rose. Today's show is on Make Light of the Darkness. Lighten up. Lift gravity into levity with love, light, truth, and laughter to see into the darkness with conscious love. Julio Rose, can someone make light of the darkness without a firm foundation and inner structure?
A firm foundation is a foundation. Could you build a home without a foundation? Well, I guess you can, but the one that's more sturdy and strong might be the one that has a healthy, full foundation. The same is true within us. So a foundation would allow for a person to feel more comforted by going in to do their inner workings, understanding, and truly that is what builds the inner structure that is so needed to be part of the building, part of the person's whole structure, that is valuable for them to have the light, the love, the truth, the wholeness that is needed in this new world.
Yes.
And without a foundation, it's unsteady and unsure, and the person feels a little not quite in the way that they can be if it's a firm, clear foundation. And that means that the love center is opening and continues to open as they learn or understand the inner workings. And Spacious Unknowing is purposeful for this purpose, because people have to let go of what they think they know in order to have something that emerges that is brand new, that can be known, that can become known to them. And it all goes together. There's nothing separate in this way of living. So anything that has been separate begins to become ready to be integrated and become integral to the whole being. And it's a steady way to unfold one's life. And in the folds, as they unfold, a person becomes more keenly aware of what the changes have done for them, the happenings of their life that have changed are very tangible, very real. Yeah. And it's I think you found it to be delightful, haven't you?
Yes, I have found it to be very delightful. And, I remember when I first came here, and I've mentioned this on other shows, but I remember when I first got here and I beheld your life and knew, well, I didn't know, I didn't understand. And what I beheld was something so beautiful and tangible and real. And I wanted it. I wasn't quite at the point of needing it.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
big difference.
there is a big difference. And the difference in wanting and needing, in the wanting of it, I didn't believe I could ever have it. I thought it was your life and there was no way I could have what you have. And the way it began, it was a need. And the need came from me beginning to read your upcoming book that isn't yet published, My Radical Life in Spacious Unknowing.
Mhm.
And so as I began to read this book, what happened is I opened and I received a tincture in my heart. The tincture was like very small and tiny, and yet what happened once I opened to it is it went in really deep, right in here, and it went into the very center of my being, all the way through me, and then it came outward this way. And what I beheld and watched in my life and had to really notice and pay attention to was that tincture was making space inside of me all the way through
Mhm.
my being. It began in my heart, but it was all the way through my being. And the next thing I knew, things in my life that I hadn't been willing to see
Mhm.
or feel, I always say taste, touch. It's like it's a full experience, but I had been, no way am I going to look at that. Because if I look at that, I'll fall apart. If I feel that, I'll fall apart. Not understanding that what was occurring inside of me would help me to stay together
Mhm.
because it was a new structure beginning to be built inside of me, but I didn't understand that at the time.
Well, the tincture is a diluted, augmented. It augments what is best inside of you that
Mhm.
was not online yet.
Yeah.
And it really began to open the places that were closed down
Mhm.
from you closing down your heart.
Yeah.
And that is what begins. So a tincture is similar to a lot of products that are condensed, so condensed we just need a little bit.
Yeah.
And yet we use it for, let's say, our whole head, if it's shampoo or cleaning, it goes a long way. It's the same with the tincture interiorly. It goes a long way to begin to open up places inside of you that were closed down.
Yeah.
And you began to be able to access these places.
Yes.
And arises some new things to understand about yourself.
Yes. And there were many things that I came to understand about myself. And it's all, so much of it was based in my head, based in me thinking I knew, based in, um, really, I felt entitled to this life, to a life of what many people consider to be a spiritual life. I felt entitled to that. And yet, until I said, I need my life to change and I need to be in spacious unknowing, I didn't understand the importance of the inner workings and receiving the tincture and beginning to see and feel the things in my life that had really made my life difficult because I paid homage to them.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke unkind to myself. I was gripped by fear. And I don't mean just like fear of one thing. I literally would not speak a word or go and try out something new in my life that I'd always wanted to experience, but I let fear be bigger than me. So I would say it's like it's taking a cover and putting it on a jar, but I kept doing that to myself. I was sitting on me. I was very almost divided inside because I would have experiences of my upper chakras opening, but I didn't want to see the lower part of my body. I didn't want to pay attention to it. But when the tincture came into me, I started to see and feel the fear, the guilt, the control, that I have to be perfect. I can't make any mistakes.
You know what? There
I
are no mistakes.
No, there are not. And I
There
have,
are no
yeah,
mistakes, Jojo.
no, there are
It's
not.
such a false idea because we live and we breathe and we are and we're in our life, and whatever happens in our life can't be called a mistake. It's, we move and we go, oh, I can learn something from this. But if it's a mistake, it's carried like forever. And there's a feeling of piling them up because more of them happen. But if there's a different way to see things, which comes from spacious unknowing, and really sometimes the really understanding that I do not know. I've been saying this, I've been thinking this, I've been wanting it that way. Obviously, I gave all my power there. But I need to stop thinking I know because I'd like to know something entirely new.
Yeah.
And I can't know something entirely new as long as I think I know.
Yeah.
So then there's a willingness to know what has been unknown to you or to anyone. And that is when you really learn life isn't a problem that needs a solution. Life is not a bunch of mistakes. Life isn't it is what it is in the moment.
Yeah.
And the better able there is to be in with the unknown and letting it be known to you, the richer in texture is your life. And the power is given to the love and the expansion of love and the heightening in consciousness. So you have more of you and less of the power you gave to a life you didn't even like.
Yeah.
It's a change, a real change. And it isn't yet a transformation. It is leading to that, but it isn't yet that. So it's important to retain that awareness of change without just moving around the mess, letting change occur in a really unfolding way, and becoming more consciously aware of what that is, what it feels like. And it makes a big difference when you notice
Yeah, it does.
something that is different for you in your life because of the inner workings that you've become aware of and use wisely and well.
Yeah. I can really understand what you're saying because it started with reading your book. Then I felt the tincture in waves from the word you spoke to me. And it allowed me to open up even deeper into a place of stillness where I began to let go of being afraid to see those places inside of me that I had allowed to hold me hostage, is how I would say it, because I held so tight to them.
Yeah.
I attached myself fast to them. And when I began to hear, like really hear in the stillness, when I began to hear inside of my head what I was saying to myself, I heard it, I felt it. And so it was like, is that really the way I want to speak to me? Which, it's a judgment. When we speak to ourselves harshly, we see our whole life based on that judgment that we have going on in here. And that's what I begin to wake up to, not totally recognizing that, well, if I saw this person out here this way, what was I doing in here? And I had to begin to see that. And then I think a really big change was when I started to speak to my chakras.
Yeah.
I spoke of this last week, and I let each chakra come in. I loved each chakra, and that sounds just like a word, but it wasn't a word. It was very active and alive inside of me, where I was honoring each chakra for its you've often said each chakra is a wheel, it's a will, and each chakra has a purpose to the whole of us. So I had to speak to the true purpose of the chakras, not what was hidden in them.
Well, I asked you to be more attentive to what was here because you were leaving it out.
I was leaving
And
it
you
out.
weren't allowing the gravity to lift to levity.
No.
And so when I brought it to your attention and said, you just can't just be here, you have to draw this up and accept this is the medium between this and this.
Yeah.
And so we need all of it.
Yeah, we do.
We need all of it. And we're not halves. We are.
Thank goodness for that.
We're whole, even when
Yes.
we don't accept it.
Yeah.
We are. That's the way life is. So non-acceptance doesn't leave us out, even though we leave ourselves out.
Yeah.
All we have to do is come back home. We've had it all along. But until the person in this frame knows it,
yeah,
it's unknown, and a different life is made up. It's a made-up story.
It is a made-up story.
And to learn the difference is pretty wonderful.
It's very wonderful.
Yeah. So what happened from you being more consciously aware of your chakras and speaking to them and changing the sound that you had made from the lower body, from your hurt and pain? And
a lot happened, and the decision I had made to be in my soul rhythm and to be in Spacious Unknowing, I think there were a lot of changes that came into this that happened from inside of me. But one of the greatest ones was entering into being in this talk show with you, because everything, all the inner workings that I was doing inside of my being, I had been facing myself. I had been being real with the things I felt and changing them in the moment. And that was sometimes, many times in a day, having to face the same feeling, but I stayed with it. So I was one that didn't want to use my voice and didn't feel that I had a voice, but choosing to be in this talk show with you brought my inner workings into a practical application out here on earth. And because I had been real with myself, facing myself, being in the show with you, when we would watch a show afterwards, I had a whole different view. I didn't get high on what I did, and I didn't get low on what I did or said or how I was. I really came into the middle and appreciated being in this talk show with you, and appreciated me in allowing myself to be in this with you and not pulling away from it in any way, shape, or form. And seeing me the way I had been internally, now I was seeing me externally on the screen, and not, I really just, if I saw something that I I was a little uncomfortable with, oh, I can change that. And I have.
Mhm.
As we've gone, there are things that I have changed because it's important. It's important to be real with ourselves and to recognize that what is inside of us does show up in our life. What are we willing to create, and what are we willing to see? And we have to be willing to be in the inner work and to invite the light and the love in, to be able to see the things that maybe we're not comfortable with, but that you can change anything in your life.
Absolutely. And that is living, breathing, being. It's organic. It's always moving. It's always moving. And we can move with it.
Yeah.
And that is really what helps to build the inner structure. Because truly, to do inner work is often sounds difficult. But if you're learning your inner workings,
Yeah.
it's just automatic to understand. You were a shiatsu therapist, so you knew
Mhm.
a lot
Yeah.
about anatomy, but energy is a whole different story.
Yeah,
We're
it
made
is.
up of energy.
Yeah.
And so we have to know and understand our energy, where we
Mhm.
let it go, where we keep it, where we allow ourselves to learn, where we allow ourselves to enjoy life, lighten up, have some
Yes.
fun. And also, lightening up is really a way of letting go of things that have felt dense or heavy,
Mhm.
and being able to really feel the release and what happens as a result of that
Mhm.
release.
Yeah.
It is such a, oh, you didn't even know you were burdened that
No,
much.
no, I really didn't.
And nobody does when they have not done their work. And then all of a sudden they begin to do this learning of the inner workings and the way they work. It is such a marvel. I mean, it is just so, I get, yeah, it's wonderful. We are such a work of art. And if we just sit prone and are just matter, it is, it isn't the fullness of why we're here. When we move and we have the movement inside of us
Yeah.
moving, and we're aware of it, and we feel the vibrations and the frequencies, oh, yeah, then we're alive. So,
Yeah,
what did
it's
you
the
do about death?
okay, so we had been preparing for our second show, which was titled Fearless in the Face of Death. If you have not had the opportunity to listen to that show, I highly recommend that you go and you listen to it. It's number 2, and it's July 4th. Fearless in the Face of Death. So we were walking, just, being in communication with this particular show, because we always prepare beforehand. And you asked, well, what's the title of the show again? And I said, Fearless in the Face of Death. And as I said it, we were walking, and I got so hot, hot in a way that I'd never gotten hot before. It was inside my whole being coming out. And we kept walking, and I'm breathing like really deeply because I don't quite understand what's happening, but I'm not attaching to it. I'm not afraid. I'm just breathing for understanding and being with you. And we get home, and I'm sitting on the couch, and my breathing was labored, and I could have gotten startled by that, but I wasn't. I really wanted to be in a still place, and you being with me
Mhm.
and speaking to me
Yeah.
calmly.
What-
And what did you tell
Yeah,
me?
I told you it was the fire of the whole spirit, the Holy Spirit, and that it was with you to cleanse and purify and purge anything that you had been wanting or needing to have changed. And now you were being given what you needed for those changes. And the fear of death was something you had asked before you said those words. You
Mhm.
wondered, do I fear death? Is there anything inside of me that fears death?
Mhm.
And then when you said those words, somehow those were the powerful words that allowed you to reconnoiter with it in some way. Something happened. And the heat, the fire is really the harnessing of any wayward emotions, certainly the thinking mind that wants to know everything
Mhm.
without knowing that it doesn't know. And so the fire is very valuable
Mhm.
for the transformation that can come from it. So,
Yeah.
and yes, you weren't panicking at all, but I could feel that you needed to understand
Yeah, I did.
what was happening to you.
Mhm.
And that was very important. And that's always important for anybody who has undergone any of this. It's very important to understand what are these inner workings showing me, what's happening to me, and not panicking, but just sitting quietly with it and allowing it to let you know. And it does.
And with that, I really want to speak into the field of something with you and with the listeners, because I know from the way that I lived my life prior to coming here, I needed a big, big, big change.
Mhm.
And so many of the things that I have undergone in these 3 years with you, I now fully understand, honor, appreciate, respect on such a deep level that I would not be here in this change, in this life, without you. I mean, you have been a very integral part to that. On that note, it is time for us to take a break, but please stay with us, because we will be continuing this communication on the way that all of this, there's more that happened with me that I want to share with you. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You are listening to Spacious Unknowing Network, Communing with Your Soul. Today's episode, we're speaking on Make Light of the Darkness. Before the break, we were speaking on a happening in my life, in my inner being, that really changed my life. It's like I took a quantum leap from this change. I had received the holy fire, the Holy Spirit. And I am grateful that you were with me, because your calm and your giving me understanding of that allowed me to rest into it, like really rest into it, and allowed it to be in me, take up the space in my inner being, and being okay with that. And so that was one aspect. From that, what it really did is it did make space inside of my being. So the next aspect to this change, this quantum leap, is one night I was lying in bed and I was being in the inner workings of something that I've had much difficulty with in my life that I'm coming to understand, and it had to do with money. Went, okay, but underneath that feeling of money and how I had lived thinking money was super important, I could feel something under it. There was an underbelly under it, and it was dark. The underbelly was dark. And I laid there, and rather than be afraid, I said, okay, light, please come and show me. I need to see and feel what this darkness is. And I felt real peace inside, and the darkness left, and I fell asleep. But that was the first time in my life that I invited light into a place of darkness inside of me.
You
I
made
personally,
light of the
I did
darkness.
make light of the
Yeah,
darkness.
it's real.
Yeah, it is real.
With conscious love. You made
Yes,
light of the darkness with conscious love.
Yes, I did.
So, yes.
Yeah. And it has changed my life, really changed my life. What came from that was I began to see the subtleties of control and the way that I had controlled myself and the way that I had controlled people in my life.
I can testify to that.
And you know, what I want to say to all of you is that we are always in our life given an opportunity to see if we can be true to our word. We can be in inquiry. We can know that we want to change, but then we're going to be, how do you say it? We're given an opportunity on whether our word is real or not. And we're really real in what we're knowing we need in our life. So last week before the show, we had been really in communication all day with it. And still right before the show, we're not fully sure on what the full content of the show would be. And so I had a choice to make. I had a decision to make. So I could either, on the one hand, be in control and get really tight inside of me and think I knew how it all needed to be, or I could go into, be in, give it all to Spacious Unknowing. Which one do you think I chose and decided for? The first time I chose Spacious Unknowing.
Yeah. And
I beheld through the activity and active participation in the show with JoJo Rose, the truth of Spacious Unknowing and the flow and how it really works and moves and lives and breathes. There is breath. It is a breath.
Energetic. It's very energetic. Yeah. The breath is.
It is
our energy. It's
it's very alive here and now. And I was so grateful. And the show felt like it went by in a second because we were having so much fun and laughter and just ease between us in the communication. I was so grateful. And to have made that decision, because it truly has changed my life. The next morning when I woke up, because I had made the decision for Spacious Unknowing, and I allowed my genuine, heartfelt voice, sound to come forth in last week's show, in communion with you, I received the light in my single eye right here. It opened. My single eye opened, and it was lit. And it helps me, makes me know the truth of this life.
Yes. Well, you let go, you needed the light and the conscious love to let go of the darkness. So
Mhm.
the darkness fled, it left. So naturally, you had space in your form
Mm.
for the light body. And that is what has happened. You have a light body that is guiding you from your own interior.
Mhm.
And, that's for me what I learned from the ways that this all unfolded rather rapidly, um, was I am a master builder.
Mhm.
I knew that I was
Mhm.
here for the inner structure to be built. And I knew that everything about the inner structure and the building of it was the truth. And until you came to live here and be present every day and do your inner workings and get to know yourself that way, I wasn't absolutely certain that it hadn't been real except through me.
Yeah.
And here you are with that inner structure built. And of course, you will continue to live
Yes, I
in
will.
this and from this and by this, taking nothing for granted.
No.
But it really did allow me to say out loud to you, I am a master builder. And it's the truth. And I used to wonder what that meant. And I have met architects and think of a structure out here
Mhm.
in that way, but this is the structure within, and there needs to be one.
Yeah.
And when there is a new human being emerging and a new world emerging with it, because when you change, everything around you changes, outside of you changes with
Yeah.
you. You see differently, you feel
Differently.
differently, you act differently. And instead of, let's say, having spoke a word that you need to fulfill, instead of you having to follow through, it's a flow through. It's a real different life.
It's a very different life.
Mhm.
There's a real softness to it, and yet it can be the harnessed fire too, depending on what is needed. But it is so, it truly is not knowing to know. And
Mhm.
you have to be in the space of knowing you don't know to know.
Well, to have something that is willing to give itself up to you, that's
Yeah.
brand new, that is the new world being made inside of you in a new structure. And unless you're willing to let go of all of what you thought you knew, that is not open to you yet because you
No.
didn't open it.
No.
But you opened it when you needed light to see the darkness.
Mm.
And just to need the light to see the darkness is not enough. You had conscious love now.
Yes.
That's your foundation.
Mhm.
And that allowed for the whole of it to unfold and show
Mhm.
itself to you through you. And then to hear you laugh after the show was great fun to me because you, for the first time in your life, were laughing at yourself.
I was
And it
laughing
was
at
so sweet because there's nothing greater. And that has to do with the gravity lifting to levity. Levity is
Yes.
being able to laugh and not be so serious about life. And you were one serious soul, I tell ya.
Yes, I was.
Worry
Worry.
was your middle name. And
Mhm.
to see you just blossoming and letting go of all of that has been a joy.
Yes.
And there are so many others of you that may want to join us in this inner workings because there's nothing as beautiful and rich
Mhm.
as this. And it's beyond what I always get speechless because each person has to learn it, what it means to them from their own living in it, breathing in it, being in it. And that's the truth.
Yeah. And I love what you have said today about you being a master builder, because that is the truth. It is the truth. I know in every fiber of my being, yes, I had to be in the inner workings. Yes, I had to be in the inquiry to understand me. Yes, I had to be willing to face myself. I had to be willing to reach a point where I could, with great peace, invite the light in, because I had the love to hold, the conscious love to hold me steady, sure, and true. But I want to honor you, because in the depth of my soul, I know that you were such an integral part of me coming to all of this.
Yeah, that's
Because
true.
the word you spoke to me and the way that you did it with such great love, even when you had to like be really very
Hit the mark.
hit the mark.
Yeah.
There were many times you had to hit the mark, but what happened in you hitting the mark again was that space just opened inside of me. So with that, I feel it's a good time to, for anyone listening, if you have something in your life that feels like it's gravity and you want to bring it into the levity, into the light, to lighten up inside of you, we invite you to please email us, because we're giving away one 30-minute one-on-one session with us. Please email us, not please. You may email us at sun@spaciousunknowingnetwork.com. The email is sun@spaciousunknowingnetwork.com. And the first person that emails us and gives themselves this gift of a 30-minute one-on-one session with us to move from gravity to levity, we will reach out to you when we receive that email.
Yes.
Yes. So, inner structure.
You're very
It is
choosy
in.
about what you take into that inner structure.
Hmm.
You're very much aware and
Yeah.
understand definition, boundary. You understand how you used to live and are aware of what not to do, as well as what you are in need of living in now. And it's very different.
It is very different. And yeah, I think one element to this that I am still learning to understand is sound, and how sound manifests, and the true importance of our sound. We can make the sounds internally in here, and our cells feel it. Everything inside of us feels it. Our organs, our energetic body, and the people in our life feel it. But when we can speak the sound out loud, it truly does make a difference in our life. It does manifest. You've always said the word is made flesh.
Yeah, it is. And when you change the way you're speaking to yourself and to other human beings, you're the sound that you're turning and turning into a different sound that you would prefer to speak from, that is the beginning of changing. And your inner structure built, then the flesh can be changed by the word you speak.
Yeah.
And it's really how you speak to you here, how you speak to others.
Yeah.
And if you're given from your soul, often will come a really powerful sound. It's soft power. And you understand that this will manifest. You know it. It's real. It's tangible. It's different. It's a different sound. But light alone does not give us that.
No.
We have to have sound to create with. And that's not, we've had that forever in awareness from different places, but now scientists are proving it. And it's sort of fun to watch how this happens and how much of that is happening in our lifetime, because it really is here and now. It's happening, and it has been. And to have, it proven that way is always levity.
Yes, it is. I can I often will kind of giggle inside because you'll say something, you'll want to, let me see if I can think of an example. You'll be in need of something, wanting to learn about something. Oh, I know a good example. We were wanting to learn about possible gardens in our area, fresh
Yeah.
produce, and you spoke of it, and the next day in your email you had something. So this is a simple
Oh, it's
example,
constant. Yeah.
but it's so important. It's like this, you can get grippers in it, can feel it, that and I've watched this continually in your life, simple things and things that are apparently not so simple, but in reality everything is simple
To me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is a way of life. And just I had to learn what it wasn't for other people, for me to be able to know what someone would need to have the inner structure like I have.
Yeah.
And it is, many people have that now on our planet, and I'm very,
Yes.
very thankful for that. But every time I have any interest, it shows up right away. And there's an article about it or a video or something, and it touches me because I used to do a lot of research, and I would be in research for one thing, and it would lead to another thing, and then another thing, and then another thing, like all in one day, and then another thing. I mean, it kept, it just encircled me. And it was so always so interesting, and it all fit together, and it just was happening. And so I've become very accustomed to living this way, and I don't ever want to change that.
Well, and you in saying it that way, and I've said this on other talk shows, and I'm going to say it again, that you're very thorough. So the way you just described, like you'd research this and then you'd move into this and then this, initially coming into this inner workings, that was a difficult one for me to understand, because living the way I did, not wanting to face myself, not wanting to, you were very, very, very thorough. So the smallest of the small, you noticed.
Yeah.
And you brought it to my attention. And today I can appreciate that with everything that's inside of me, because that's important. Our life is whole, and our life is made up of the things that apparently feel or look big, but there's always subtleties connected to that.
Yeah.
And to understand the subtleties really makes our life whole. It's
Yeah.
all one
The
thing.
subtleties are tiny, but it's a tiny act that really makes the big stuff. And nobody knows that until they come home to the subtleties. And they are subtle.
Yeah, they are.
So you have to be really attentive to them to absolutely get what it is. And when I spoke of researching something, I just moved from that because there was some kind of link that I went to from it. So I just kept moving to whatever was next. And it wasn't in alignment with the first one. Sometimes it would be totally in a different field. And I loved it. I love it because I love getting to know new things.
No, you do.
And I'm like a little child.
You
with it.
are. You're
And
very childlike.
And I can't help it. It's so integral to me and always has been. And I will never change. And I will never change being childlike. That's why I always have children around, because they just tickle me. They make me laugh because they so completely uninhibited.
Oh, yes. Yes, very much
Yeah.
so uninhibited.
Yeah, so it's a good life.
It is a good life.
I have not one regret for my whole life because I have lived it to the fullest.
Yes, you have.
And that is a good life, to live to the fullest. And that is what I'm going to watch you do.
Yes. And I would like to kind of join you in that. I used to regret my life. I don't anymore, because by understanding me, I'm here now.
Yeah.
There isn't one thing I've done in my life that I will say that was hurtful and harmful to me and to others, but I don't regret it because I understand now, and it helps me. It gives me understanding for my fellow human beings.
Yep, it sure does.
So I am for that eternally grateful.
Yeah. Yes.
Guess what time it is again?
Yes. It's a good time.
It is a good time. Well, we have come to the end of another show. And not please, I don't want to say that. I appreciate all of you listening in. We appreciate all of you listening in. To learn more in regards to JoJo Rose and I, JoJo Rose, and what we have to offer, and Spacious Unknowing Network, please visit our website at spaciousunknowing.com. And again, if you know that you have something that is feeling heavy and you want to lift that gravity to levity and receive a one-on-one 30-minute session with us, first one to respond will receive this gift. Email sun@spaciousunknowingnetwork.com. We will see you again next Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Until then, aloha.
Thank you for listening to Spacious Unknowing Network, Sunshine for Your Soul, with Julie O.
and JoJo Rose.
Join us again for life-affirming communication every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time on transformationtalkradio.com, so that you can bask in the rays of infinite love.
Access soul rhythm to tap into your real being, for your heartbeat in the rhythm of your soul.
Feel it guide you to new horizons and unlimited, infinite love. For more information about Julio
and JoJo Rose,
visit SpaciousUnknowingNetwork.com. That's SpaciousUnknowingNetwork.com.